Children of the River, Chapter 17. Sundara flipped off the kitchen faucet. Ravi, could you help me, please? No answer. Not surprising. With that awful TV noise, she marched past the boys and turned down the volume. If Soka was so concerned about evil American influence, why didn't she ban these shows? Look at little Pon, sitting there big-eyed, learning to believe that a car can squeal tires, fly through the air, and explode in a fireball without the driver even getting scratched. Hey, watch out! Ravi motioned her aside. You're in our way. Could you put the clothes in the dryer, please, and start a load of towels? He frowned, intent on the screen. That's not a boy's job. Something snapped. Not a boy's job. She stepped between him and the chasing cars, hands on her hips. Would you rather clean up the kitchen? I can't do everything myself, you know. I'm not your servant. Startled, Ravi rose and went to the garage, eyeing her over his shoulder. Pon looked surprised, too. Well, let them be shocked. She went back into loading the dishwasher. Ravi took to American ways easily enough when they suited him. Maybe he'd have to accept a few he didn't like so much. In America, it might not be so easy finding the kind of women who would spoil him. Besides, he knew how to work. It wouldn't hurt him to help out on a Saturday. They had so much to catch up on. She hadn't realized how many chores her aunt usually took care of until she stopped. Hey, are you all right? Ravi said, now coming back into the kitchen. She heard the washer and dryer humming. She sighed. He wasn't a bad boy. He couldn't help it if Soka let him think women would always wait on him. Sorry I'm so cross, Ravi. It'd been a hard week. School had been bad enough with all the trouble over Jonathan, and then she dreaded coming home too. After last week's grim news, Soka had grieved herself into a bad cold. She called in sick at work, gave up cooking and cleaning. Every afternoon she waited for Sundara to come home, eager for fresh ears to hear her sorrowing. She'd hardly ate anything and managed to kill everyone else's appetite too, going on at each meal about how terrible it made her feel to eat, knowing so many were starving. I'm starting to fear we'll never see any of our relatives again in this life, she took to saying, and each time she repeated her dark premonition, the knot in Sundara's stomach clenched tighter. Think I'll head over to Kevin's, Ravi said now. Sundara nodded, envying him. He wanted to leave before Soka, Naro, and grandmother came back from the grocery store. She fastened the chain behind him. Well, she'd have her own brief escape when Soka came home, even if it was just a trip to the garbage dump. At least it would give her a chance to see Moni. That was something. Maybe things would have been easier lately if she'd been able to talk with her. Let Moni find the black humor in all of this, if there was any. Sundara longed to be distracted with the talk of marriage life, but Moni and Cha Sung were busy, she knew, moving into their new apartment. Today, though, she had promised to haul a broken chair away for them. She whirled through the kitchen, wiping the counters, the stove, getting down on her hands and knees to scrub the floor. Soka must be given no excuse to criticize. When the kitchen was done, she hurried out to the garage and pulled the dry clothes into a basket. It was cold in the garage now. They had to move her cot into the family room, which she just liked. She did not miss the smell of gasoline, but apparently she had developed an American taste for privacy. All week she hardly slept for listening to her aunt roaming the house at night like a restless ghost, sobbing out her regrets, berating herself for the way she treated those she left behind. Sundara was in the bedroom folding clothes when she heard them ringing insistently for her to unfasten the door chain. She hurried down the hall with the empty plastic laundry basket. When she opened the door, the silence was as cold as the rush of foggy air. Grandmother tottered past her to the bedroom, staring straight ahead. Had the clerks been rude to her again? Naro seemed agitated, setting down his sacks, unwinding the scarf from his neck. Soka dropped her sack of groceries on the counter with an angry thunk. So, she started at Sundara through narrowed eyes that skewed her like hot pokers. Why did you do these things, Niece? Don't we have troubles enough? Sundara glanced at Naro, but he was putting vegetables in the refrigerator, his back squarely turned. What have I done? Sundara's voice was faint. What? She asked. What? Shamed us all, that's what. We met the wife of Poksari at the produce section, and listen to this. She could not wait to tell us that her son saw you and the American boy walking away from school together. The laundry basket slipped from Sundara's hand. She reached for the counter to steady herself. Please let me explain, younger aunt. Then it's true. Oh, what fate. Fool that I am. I still held out hope that she lied. What the matter with you, girl? Sometimes I wonder what life you came from before this. You made a promise to me. But younger Anne, I've kept that promise. It's not the way Polk Simo makes it sound. I was upset. Jonathan only wanted to help me. It was the day after we learned the news of Theory and my friend Shamaron. Sokka paused. It had been a dark day for the whole family. Sundara was safe and pleading grief. I wasn't even thinking clearly, Sundara added. Sokka seemed to consider this. So this is the one and only time since your promise you have talked to this boy? Sundara hesitated, remembering the hospital visit. Aha, so it isn't, Sokka said, pouncing in. But you don't understand, younger aunt. I understand, Sokka's voice gathered intensely. I understand that you play me like a fool with your deceit. I understand that I am weary of feeding and sheltering a girl who makes me lose space with people like the wife of Polk Sari. Now, Sokka, Naro said, why don't we just forget about what that family thinks of us? We have no need to impress them. Ha, you're trying to tell me you felt no shame when she practically came out and called your niece a filthy? Sokka, enough. Rebuked, Sokka turned on Sundara a look of purest loathing. I wish you would go, she said evenly. Get out of my sight. Sundara stepped back as if slapped, then turned and fled the kitchen. Sokka moved to follow and finished the tongue lashing, but Naro blocked her way. Little sister, this is no way to talk. Oh, isn't it? Why do you defend her? She lied to us. From the dining area, Pom began to cry. Sundara cringed in the hallway, her heart pounding painfully. All this shouting, and because of her? Sokka's voice rose. Maybe you'd be more concerned about her if she were the daughter of your sister. Your responsibility. Responsibility? For 4 years I've heard nothing but responsibility when it comes to our niece. Is that all you think of her? A child needs affection too. You're too hard on her. You've given her all discipline and none love. I hardly think that's what your sister had in mind when she entrusted her to you. You didn't want her to turn into a bad girl either. She's not a bad girl. She's becoming one. Can't you see that? Stop. Sundara clapped her hands over her ears. Please stop. No, I don't see that. I see a girl who's doing her best and having a hard time just like the rest of us. You're not the only one who was uprooted, you know. Such hot retorts, accusations obviously long held inside, silently rehearsed. Sundara burned. And as for those complaints about feeding her, Naro went on, are you forgetting how hard she worked this summer? She earned a lot of money, and it's not as if she's come home pregnant. By the way you rave on, don't we have enough troubles right now without you worrying about what might or might not happen in the future? But you are the one who says we must look to the future, plan for her to be a doctor. Yeah, that's right, and the girl brings home straight A's. What more do you want? Straight A's won't save her if she's ruined by an American boy. You just want to shut your eyes to the problem because you know this would never happen if we hadn't come to America. Sokka. There was a shocked pause. Now I know for certain you're out of your mind. We would all be dead if we hadn't come to America, and you know it. This was unreal, a bad dream. People did not shout this way, rage at each other. Sundara's uncle was at her side, a pulse pounding in his temples, surprised at his own anger plain on his face. He put his hand on her shoulder, thinking. He glanced back to their kitchen. It might be best if you went ahead to the dump. We must all regain our senses. Sundara nodded numbly. But where would she go if Sokka decided to throw her out for good? To a city to beg on the streets as she'd heard some runaways did? A government orphan home? Living with strangers? Naro put the car keys in her hand. I don't think Sokka even knows what she's saying anymore. She knows, Sundara thought. Sokka had said nothing Sundara hadn't already known she'd felt. Nothing she hadn't heard in the voice many times. I will speak to her while you're gone. Sundara pulled her rubber mud boots from the hall closet and jammed her feet into them. Please don't trouble yourself, Uncle. Couldn't he see? It didn't matter what anyone said. Sokka had always hated her. She hadn't been able to save Sokka's baby, and Sokka was never going to forgive her. Sundara opened the front door into the fog. The very air of this house was poisoned with Sokka's hatred. She couldn't stand to breathe it another minute. She longed to spill this to Moni, but when her friend opened her apartment door, the words wouldn't come. Sundara leaned against the door jamb, still weak from the force of Sokka's anger. Sundara, what is it? Are you sick? Oh, of course, your friend Shamroon. I'm so sorry to hear that news. Sundara shook her head. The American boy, then? Yes, no. Oh, Moni, it's everything. My chest feels tight, enough to break open. This time Sokka will throw me out, I'm sure of it. Oh, I can't believe that. Come in now. Sit down. No, I must go to the dump. Just a minute, then. Moni went in and spoke with her husband. I better come with you, little sister. We can talk in the car. But Sundara couldn't talk, couldn't explain. She was weary of trying. Shamroon was dead. Sokka would always hate her. They would never see their family again. She would never fit in with the Americans. Yet now that she'd known Jonathan, she could never accept an arranged marriage to a stranger. What was the point? What was the point of trying anymore? What was the point of anything? At the deserted dump, Sundara drove the station wagon up the muddy road to the top and backed to the edge of the steep slope. She opened the door. The stench of rotting garbage hit her face, turned her stomach. She put on her work gloves as Moni got out the other side. Then they opened the back hatch and Moni pulled out her chair. Taking short, quick breaths in the stinking fog, Sundara opened the plastic cans and spilled the contents of it down the slope. She shoved the cans back in, slammed the door, and stripped off the gloves. Then she saw, down in the rubble, a tiny arm reach through the garbage toward her. She shut her eyes, heart pounding. "Little sister, what is it?" Cautiously, Sundara opened her eyes. Still there, she stared, trembling. Moni squinted in the same direction. "Oh, it's just a doll," she smiled tentatively. "A broken doll." Sundara felt her breath stumbling back against the car, pressing her head between her hands. The baby. Oh, the baby. "Sundara, what are you talking about?" Moni peered down to the rubble. "It's not a baby, it's a doll. Can't you see that?" No. Sundara knew a doll from a baby, and she knew an omen when she saw one too. She sank to the mud. "Sundara!" Moni tried to pull her up, but she fell back against the tire. "No use, Moni, no use." She was sobbing now, powerless to stop it from engulfing her. The brief instant of hope at the baby's stirring, the bewilderment at pulling back the krama, and God in heaven, the last shudder of life, the tiny hand slowly uncurling its fingers. Seeing it all again now, her cry rose. "No!" Moni fell back, hand to her mouth. "No, she'll be with me forever," Sundara cried. "Please," Moni begged, "what are you talking about?" "Sokka's baby. Oh, I might as well have her lashed in my krama for the rest of my life." "What is that? Sokka had a baby?" Sundara nodded crazily, holding her head as if to crush it. "And I let her die. I was supposed to take care of her. Instead, I let her die." Oh, merciful God." Moni glanced around, wringing her wrists. "I've got to get you home." "I have no home." "Sundara, you've got to get up. I can't drive your uncle's car. I only have my learner's permit." This struck Sundara as wildly, absurdly funny. She began laughing hysterically. Moni, who knew how to keep babies alive, who had trampled hundreds of miles through the jungle alone, afraid to drive a car. But Moni's voice sounded weary and close to tears. "Don't laugh like that, little sister. You're scaring me." Sundara went back to crying. "Just leave me here, Moni. Just leave me." Suddenly, Moni's strong arms were around her, dragging her to the car, wrestling her inside. Moni got in the driver's seat, put her hands on the wheel, and drew a deep breath. "Heaven protect us," she said. She turned on the ignition. Sundara sobbed all the way home. Her hair stuck to her wet face as she huddled in the front seat, a muddy heap. Finally, the car stopped. The door on her side opened, and hands reached for her, arms lifted her out. Moni had summoned Naro. Supporting Sundara between them, they had half carried her to the house. "One look at this broken doll," Moni said, and she fell down in a fit. "She was upset when she left. She and Sokka, you know." "Yes, I could see that, but what is this business of Sokka's baby?" "Ah, she spoke of that." Sokka came in from the living room, trailed by grandmother. "What's the matter with her?" "She's gone crazy," Moni said. "It's about your baby, Sokka." My baby daughter?" "Niece, please calm yourself," Naro said. "It's not so bad as all this." I'm sorry, Sundara cried. "Younger aunt, I'm so sorry." Now. They led her to her cot in the family room, where she collapsed in a fresh outpouring of tears. "Why can't she stop crying?" Naro said, a hint of panic in his voice. "Because it's not in her power to do so," was grandmother's reply, strong and surprisingly full of authority. "Can you not see what is before your eyes?" Vaguely, Sundara was aware of them staring at her. What was it grandmother could see that they could not? "The spirit of Sokka's baby," grandmother announced, "has taken over Sundara's body." A fearful silence and the sound of someone else's crying mingled with Sundara. "Why is mother crying?" Pan piped up. "What's the matter with Sundara?" "Son," grandmother said, "why not take this little one back into the bedroom? He's had enough upset for one day. The spirit will only frighten him. Let us women deal with it." The drapes were hastily drawn, and in a moment Sundara smelled burning incense. Grandma perched on the edge of the cot. "Little spirit," she said, rubbing Sundara's back, "do not punish our girl this way. Please fly away from her body." Sundara kept crying. Was she crazy? Had the spirit of Soka's baby truly seized her? She heard their soft, gross pleadings in the distance, as if she were underwater, and the three women crooning to the spirit were above. She was swimming, drowning in her own tears, beyond caring, crying for every sad thing she had never cried about before. Oi, grandmother, Nara was right. I have been too hard on her, poor girl. Was it possible? Was that really Soka coming to sit on the side of the cot, stroking her hair? Sundara didn't dare raise her head, as if to look at them would dispel their concern, break the aura as they took turns pleading with the baby spirit. Tears soaked her bedding, and still more welled up. She cried for the baby. She cried for Shammaron. She cried for the rest of her family and the thoughtless things she said to them, the loving things she'd left unsaid. She cried for the foolishness of having argued with her mother over a parasol, not knowing the last chance for I love you was slipping away. And as long as it was pouring out like an endless torrent, she cried for Jonathan. All this to the soothing, continuous murmurings of the women. After a long time, Sundara's weeping finally ceased, and she lay exhausted, not sleeping, but not moving either. She heard a deep sigh. Grandmother, you must rest, Soka said. We will stay with her. She's all right, then? Naro asked quietly from the door. The spirit has flown, Grandmother said. The cot creaked as she pushed herself up, letting Moni take her place. Sundara lay there listening as Soka and Moni spoke in low tones. They seemed to think she was completely unconscious. It's true, Soka sniffed. I haven't been fair to her. She thinks you hate her, Moni said bluntly. Ah, don't tell me that, Soka wept. How do you feel about her, then? Do you like your niece? A pause. I don't know. Terrible, isn't it? I guess it is as Naro said. I thought of her as a responsibility, that's all. But she's such a sweet girl and so smart. Yes, she is smart. She knows so much more than I about so many things. But is that right? I'm older. I'm supposed to guide her, but how can I? Moni sighed. Maybe the old patterns won't always work anymore. Every time I look at her, I see her mother. I worry I'm not raising her right. You have eyes. You can see she's too pretty for her own good. If she loves a boy and something bad happens, I can never forgive myself. I wonder why we find it so much harder to forgive ourselves than to forgive others. You can't protect her from everything. But she is my responsibility, even if Nara was mad at me for always saying that. I want to see her happily married, like you, to a good Khmur. Well, maybe she will be someday, who can say? But in the meantime, why let yourself be eaten up by worry and guilt? Look at us, all of us. I'm tired of our guilt. There was a long moment of quiet, then Soka spoke. She really thinks that it was her fault about the baby? Apparently so. Imagine my surprise. Neither of you ever even mentioned this baby. Well, I guess I've tried to pretend it never happened. She sniffed, fighting back tears again. You have to understand, Moni. I was crazy sick and out of my mind on the ship. I remember opening my eyes and seeing her sitting there trying to make the baby drink something. The baby's going to die, I remember thinking, and it was odd feeling so calm about it. But you see, I thought I was going to die too. I thought we would all die. When I came to my senses and the baby wasn't there anymore. I thought, oh God, why did I let myself get sick? That was my baby. I should have got up. I should have done something. Finally, Soka broke down and cried. She cried long and hard. Soka dozed off. Sundara dozed off to the sound of her sobbing. When she awoke later, the scent of incense was gone, replaced by the garlicky aroma of dinner cooking. Someone had pulled off her boots, but the rest of her clothes felt clammy. She changed into dry jeans and shirt, combed her hair. She was hungry. When she appeared in the doorway, all eyes turned her way. She lowered her lids, embarrassed. Soka guided her to a chair and put a bowl of sour beef soup before her. How are you feeling? She said with unusual solitude. I don't suppose you remember anything. Sundara looked down, her face warm. You see, Grandmother said to the others, it is as I told you. When this happens, they never do. But Sundara did. She had heard Soka's private thoughts. She felt shy now, trying to pretend she did not remember Soka's arm around her. She spoke with downcast eyes. You are right, Grandmother. I remember nothing.